Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace dropping in on you. I am not going to be long. I actually contemplating just doing a recorded clip for this because I'm not going to be long, and I do want to pull a lot of people in, you know, for a brief discussion. But then again, you know how I am when I get on something that I'm passionate about. It tends to go a little bit longer than I thought. Then I just thought, hey, look. I want to share, but I also want to hear for the brief time that I'm here what others are thinking about the topics. The first thing I'm going to touch on, and then I'm going to move on to the second topic and finish things up, is there's a lot going around the internet, and I know everybody has an opinion. And I'm not one to rob a person of their opinion. You have an opinion, and your opinion is often based on your own life experiences and the level of your awareness about life and how things work and what's going on around you. So everybody's going to have a different opinion about certain things because their experiences are different. Those are the things you can't control. The things you can't control are the things that aren't subject to opinion in the sense of what they really and truly are. We're talking facts. We're talking how we move, how we operate. And we have to be able to move outside of our own awareness and opinions to see the truth many times. And it's hard for us to do that. But anyway, I've been watching something that I'm extremely disappointed in. And that is how this young track star, and those of you who don't know, I'm an avid track fan. I love all sports. Ran track, played football, but I love all sports. But I'm just an avid track fan, um, and so I have an appreciation for both male and female track athletes and what it takes to be uh, at an elite level, especially when it comes down to sprinting. I know it well, and so I have an appreciation for what this young lady has accomplished as an athlete. I know a little bit about her personal story that makes me appreciate what she's done a little bit more. It's pretty much a microcosm of what a lot of us have experienced. Trouble, grew up in a home probably where her grandmother obviously had a massive impact and influence on her upbringing. It seems that her mom was probably not in a traditional mother's role because she refers to her as her biological mother, speaks volumes. This isn't about judgment because we are in a situation where we need to deal with this on a grand scale. This isn't an anomaly of some sorts. This is a problem in the Black community that we don't like addressing. We love to sweep things that are uncomfortable to discuss under the rug. Well, when it comes down to how she's being attacked and for what she's being attacked for, it kind of blows my mind. I'm not shocked because I'm used to seeing my wonderful people, and that's because the place you hold in my heart, not necessarily how you're behaving at any given time. And I'm not accusing anyone watching this video of this type of behavior. The people who normally come in and contribute, and I am aware of, are pretty sharp, carry themselves in a certain way. And so I'm not assuming that anyone watching this video is a part of this, but I want to talk about it because you may know someone who is, or it may help you understand the dynamic. And it also may drive you to be a catalyst for change. So the first thing is the hair. That's the easiest one to get to. Her different color hair. Those of me know, I know, I love natural. But I also understand it that people, our sisters aren't going to wear natural. I'm not judgmental on that. My wife gets her hair done. Now her hair is natural and long as hell, and she decides she wants to put that sewing in her hair. That's her prerogative, and I love her regardless. And we do have a moratorium on relaxers in our home. No relaxers in the house. Nobody's in the house is allowed to get a relaxer. And that's for health reasons. And the beautiful thing is under that weave is this of this young girl is this beautiful head of natural hair that has not been relaxed. I know this because I just watched the interview she did with Good Morning America in her natural. And so, underneath that is that, this isn't about so much defending how she wears her hair, because that's her prerogative. Actually, has nothing to do with me. But I have a problem when we don't see what we want to see in our people, how we go at them. Now, there are some things I think that we need to be aggressive. The way that our men are being feminized, and the image of our men are being feminized, and the way that there's a lack of representation of how the vast majority of our men behave. We get a microcosm view of a very small part of our population, and they tend to be the representation of who we are. We get the ones who are criminal minded. We get to see the ones who lack the masculinity and the desire to be protectors, providers, and spiritual coverings. We don't see those people who look like me, those people who look like the men I associate with and am around on a regular basis, who show up to the dance every day and put in the work. We are in the background. What we see are the misrepresentations of who we truly are, because there's a push and an agenda to normalize that. So when I sit up and I see situations like this, I'm like, okay, let's back up and let's look at what's going on. First and foremost, there's this narrative being pushed that it's just black men attacking their sister. And I can tell you from what I've went and found that it's some of our sisters doing it too. Highly unacceptable. I'm the first one to go at my brothers when I feel like we're not holding up the banner, because I'm a man. So there's a pride in my manhood that wants to see other men take up the battle. And so I'm critical and I'm hard on men because I'm a man. But let me tell you something, sisters. We got to find a way to love one another outside of our differences, outside of our level of maturation, outside of our level of growth and how we see ourselves. There's got to be a certain type of self-love that can see myself in a person, even though they're not where I'm at. I also remember Dr. King saying after Malcolm was killed that we've got to learn how to be disagreeable without being violently disagreeable. That's not just in the physical sense. That's in the emotional and mental sense as well. We got to stop attacking one another based over differences in ideologies, concepts, and cultural nuances. Yes, check somebody. Like I saw a video and I absolutely loved it, where this man was hitting on this woman somewhere in New York City. I want to say somewhere in Brooklyn. I could be wrong, but was hitting on this woman, even picked something up out of the trash and hit her over the head with it. And these young cats came to her rescue and put them hands on him and dealt with him immediately. And I said, that's what we need to see more. We need to see more of our men standing up and being men and defending our women. And the thing is, no one ran up and looked at the woman's appearance to determine whether they were going to defend her. No one asked whether she was homeless. No one asked whether, what her background was. It was just simply that it was unacceptable to them to see a man hitting on a woman, and they did what they felt they should have done. Okay, that is something that I want to see us check openly. I think that is something that has to be checked openly. And what I did see that made me even really, really gravitate towards that and stamp my approval on it was the first brother that ran up square up on him and popped him, and then got on top of him and was starting to chastise him. Another brother came along with a board or some kind of plank that he was trying to hit him with, and the brother goes, no, we're not doing that. So in other words, I'm checking him, but I ain't trying to destroy him. I'm trying to get it through his head. We don't do that. So I still see him as my brother. And this kind of goes off into the thing we're talking about on the back end of this. I sort of see him as my brother, but at the same time, this is unacceptable. This may not sound like I'm getting at what I'm trying to get at, but I need us to understand something. There's a force behind how we're handling this young woman. She's just a microcosm. She is just simply what we're aimed at now. We can get aimed at anything, and we can get triggered in a heartbeat behind things that shouldn't trigger us. Nobody's paying attention to the hard work ethic. Nobody's paying attention to all the time that was put in. And that's male and female. People who hone their crafts, who beat on their craft, who decide they're not going to let anything stop them, should be celebrated, especially when they're of our hue, when they're melanated people. If they know how to carry this. And all I've seen is her be humble. She has her faith, and she stands and speaks in her faith. Now, she's very confident of who she is on that track, and that's absolutely necessary, especially as a sprinter. I can tell you, you can't walk on that track. Nobody talking about humble. She didn't do anything to offend anybody. She's being herself. Oh, I haven't gotten to the part where most people are upset and attacking her. I haven't gotten to that yet. Hold on a minute, Earlene. But they started with the hair. They've been talking about the hair for a while. She's been doing that since before she left Dallas Carter. I know she did it predominantly throughout her freshman year at LSU. I've been following her. Like I said, track and field is my thing. I've been following her. But here's the thing. Now there's this thing about she lacks femininity. Right, Earlene. She lacks femininity. She's too muscular. Well, first of all, I can guarantee you anybody, male or female, who's sitting up saying that has never really truly been in track and field, because elite athletes in track and field, trained male or female, are going to have very low body fat percentages and are going to tend to be muscular because they are, especially sprinters, because they are training in an explosive way, and they're overtraining what we call fast twitch muscle fibers. You have slow twitch muscle fibers and fast twitch muscle fibers. Those who are naturally fast have a higher percentage of fast twitch muscle fibers. Also, fast twitch muscle fibers are what make you explosive, able to jump high and all that other stuff, right? So they also hypertrophy more than slow twitch muscle fibers. So the more explosively you train them, the bigger they tend to get. So if you're training to be explosive, you're training to be at your top capacity and performing, you're going to be more muscular. Okay, so that's just natural. Now, what you'll find is if you move along in the careers of women who have now retired, you'll find that after they retire, after they stop that heavy training, they will start to put on a little bit more. Even if they stay in condition, they'll start to put on a little bit more body fat, and they will tend to not be as well defined muscularly because they're not training at that level anymore. So you have, number one, a lowered metabolism, and you also have a reduction in or an atrophy in the muscle fibers themselves. That's just natural. The thing that we fell in to look at is I could see if she's the only person out there that's muscular. That's an event in women's track and field where you're going to find the vast majority are muscular. Very few escape that to where you just see only you don't even see the athleticism and they still perform at that level. I've only really seen two. And I could be just missing, but I could think of two, and they were generations apart. Allison Felix has done it her entire career at a very exceptional level, and Evelyn Ashford from the 80s. She had nice legs, but there was still, this natural femininity about her that was different. FloJo, unbelievable calves, nice thighs, just simply a part of the job. The thing is, you have a right to have whatever types body style you find attractive to be attractive. As a male or female, what you think something should look like is your right to have that particular type. Doesn't mean you have to attack someone who doesn't. It doesn't mean you have to find a reason to be vitriolic towards someone who doesn't. My thing is, this young girl has overcome all kind of odds, has a very good view on life, is very positive, not nasty to anyone, very respectful to her elders. Like I said, I just watched her interview with on Good Morning America, and I'm looking at her and I'm like, I keep looking for, is she very confident? Does she say I'm that girl when I'm on the track? Absolutely, she's got to. You've got to believe you're the best when you're competing against the best. The moment that you think somebody's better than you on the track, you've already lost that race. Oh boy, 916 Shan. Very, very good point. While I'm thinking about it, let me go ahead and put this out there. Let me put this up on the thing. That right there is exactly a point that I made when all this up. We've become so used to unhealthy bodies that when we see one that's in the top physical condition, it looks wrong to us. When we see something, that body eats right, that body trains right, that body has the right resting heart rate, that body has an unbelievable heart pump efficiency ratio. That body has a bunch of things that the average body in America doesn't have. Why? Because we're eating fast food. We're doing a bunch of things that we shouldn't be doing. We're sedentary in our lifestyle, meaning we're sitting on our butts all the time, not doing anything. And so what we look like and what we've become used to doesn't resemble what we should look like. So you make a very, very valid point. Randy Johnson makes another very valid point about some of the sprinters that have come before her, and even one now, another one of my favorites, Shelly Ann Price Frazier. She got to stop getting so many darn names, though, but she got married. So Shelly Ann Price Frazier is from Jamaica. She is currently the fastest woman in the world. She ran a time of like 10.6 something, 10.7 something earlier this year. She's going to be the greatest threat to Sha'Carri Richardson in Tokyo. Gail Devers, one of my favorite sprinters of all times, unbelievably powerful, large thighs, short, just like Sha'Carri, but thighs even bigger, and still yet a woman. I mean, that whole thing. But like I said, again, we don't have a true idea of what healthy is because we've normalized obesity. We've normalized being overweight. We've normalized it and we've embodied it mentally and emotionally. And we go on the attack when we see anything different. Some of it is because we are convicted and we know better. We know. And some of us are convicted because we know we're never going to have the commitment and the discipline to ever go out and create a body like that. So we cannot embrace that body because we're never going to achieve it. We need to be real with ourselves about some of the reasons we do things. I tell my wife all the time, a lot of people who came from where you came from that have issues with you now is because you are a conviction of their mediocrity. Because until you popped up, they could all get together in their little huddle and talk about all the things and the reasons why they can't do it. I was molested as a child. I'm not maligning that. Don't get me wrong. Those of you know the work I do and my wife do, you know I don't take that lightly. But I'm saying these are some of the things that's happened to some women. It happened to my wife. Molested and raped before she was 18. More than once. In a house with an abusive father who was an alcoholic. Literally lived a life of fear every day because never knew what was going to happen. Do you know the level of stress that and all that does on the puts on the human body and the human mind? Now, if you've watched or paid attention to anything I talk about when I talk about adverse childhood experiences, then you know all of that stuff is almost dooming. And yet I look at what my wife has done, and then what does she do? That puts a conviction onto everybody. That puts a conviction onto those who are sitting up and deciding that they can't do it. And yes, Erling, you're right. Everybody does respond to trauma different, but everybody has the same opportunity to do something about it. Nobody responds to it the same way because nobody's situation is the same. Nobody's foundation, or whatever that is the same. Nobody's physiological makeup, because your physiological makeup is going to have a massive impact on how you consume and absorb trauma, because it happens first in your physiological makeup. Trauma happens in your genes, in your cells. It's stored in your genes and your cells. So traumatic memory isn't what you're remembering in your mentality, it's what your cellular makeup can remember. And that's often how we're triggered. Smells, touches, things of that nature trigger the body before the brain can ever catch up. So yeah, there is this different response. But at the end of the day, you can't say I can't when someone has. You definitely can't say I can't when someone who went through something 10 times worse has. You have to put in the work. I don't believe in defeatist mindsets. I don't believe that there's a such thing as I can't because this happened to me. No, you're probably going to have to do a lot more and work a lot harder than the average person because all this stuff happened, but it can be done. My whole thing is when people start thinking with a defeatist mindset that because this is what happened and it's so terrible in my life, I'm never going to overcome it. That's when suicidal ideations start to permeate their mind. What reason am I here? Why do I have to continue to go on through this? I'm never going to XYZ. I'm never going to do anything but ABC. We've got to learn how to communicate, how to be aware of what's going on. But at the end of the day, back to this young lady, we've got to do a better job of learning how to love ourselves in a way that we can love on others. Because when you're really truly in a love affair with yourself, you don't have time to hate on nobody. That's just basic facts. That's just basic facts. Now, I want to kind of bring this all together for the second half, and that is the damage that ignorance is doing to the Black community. I have often said, if you subscribed and followed for any amount of time, you've heard me say this. One of our biggest setbacks is our inability to understand. We lack knowledge of how things work. We lack an understanding of how things work. We're easily manipulated because we don't understand how things work. We don't understand money. We don't understand politics. We don't understand academics. We don't understand wealth building. We don't understand how things work. We spend a lot of time complaining and hoping someone else will fix things because our lack of understanding does not present to us the idea that we have the capacity to fix it ourselves. So what we do is we sit up and move around. Edward Bernays, who is considered the godfather or the father of modern PR, wrote a book back in the 30s called Propaganda and showed you how he moved an entire industry from being predominantly male dominated to having women be a major part in it. And that was cigarettes. That was a point in time that smoking, dipping tobacco, all that was a male thing. And the tobacco industry decided that there's a whole pool of individuals out there that we're not tapping into. Brought in Edward Bernays. He came up with a campaign to make smoking cigarettes glamorous. So what do? You put it in the hands of a movie star. And these movie stars that were back in those days considered gorgeous and beautiful and glamorous. And then you put it on the commercials. You campaign it. You put it in magazines. You make it something to aspire to. All of a sudden, now you got women smoking too. And he talks about it. It was a lot of what you don't realize. It was propaganda masters in America that Hitler studied that taught him how to use propaganda in his campaign in Germany. And then Tom Burrell, a Black person who owned the largest Black-owned PR firm in the world, retired some time ago, CEO emeritus now, if he's still living. I haven't checked in a moment. But he wrote the book Brainwash, and he told you how media was being used to present a certain narrative in the Black community, specifically the inferiority complex, self-hatred, the idea of inherent and innate animalism and criminalism, that the very narrative and image of what a Black man is and a Black woman is being manipulated by the media. And we move around ignorant of this at a level that allows that very mechanism to continue to control that's how we're triggered all the time. They know that we're so emotionally charged that they can trigger us. And after we've been triggered, we lose all sight of what's possible, what can be done, and what we should be doing. And then we go trigger, get in this irate state of rage until we burn out. And then it's back to normal. They've been using this playbook for as long as I can look back and research and validate. Trigger them, watch them go absolutely nuts until they run out of energy, and then they go back to status quo, which is hoping that a certain group of people will provide the comforts they need. They never, ever really truly stop as a collective and look inside of themselves to find the answers. We consistently send them a message that we are the power structure. Anything you want has to come through us. Then when they become disenfranchised with us, we give them something to be triggered about. They get caught up in that, distracted long enough to forget that they're upset with us. Then when they're finished, they come right back in the same place, sitting at the table, waiting to be fed. Ignorance is destroying us. And we often use the term ignorant in the wrong way. And so people are often so offended when you use the word ignorant, they never take time to think about what you're saying. So let me clarify something for you. Every person in this world is ignorant of something. Every person in this world has a level of ignorance in everything. Nobody knows everything about anything. So there's always a level of ignorance. So you have to understand that when we talk about the level of ignorance, it's not an insult. It's simply a reality. The thing is, you have to work daily to reduce your level of ignorance in any area that has a direct impact on how you live your life. You have a responsibility to yourself as an individual, to yourself as a parent, to yourself as a family, and to yourself as a racial collective to understand everything that's impacting your world. You have to understand it. There's a situation. I want to say, oh man, what country is it? I cannot think of the country in Africa, but it had gold mines. It knew that the gold in the mines was valuable, but it had no knowledge of how to mine the gold on a grand scale to get to the wealth, to be able to use the wealth. So it didn't know how things work. So it went out, got an outside company, made a contract with this company. Now, this is a poor country, but there's all this wealth sitting right there, but they don't know how to mine it, how to leverage, how to get it. This country calls in a company, does a contract with the company, where the company is going to pay them $75 million and for the license to mine the company and keep what they find, with the exception of 5% royalties on whatever is harvested, for lack of a better term. Okay, so in other words, you're gonna pay me 75 million plus 5%. In a poor country, that 75 million may sound like some money, but if you really think about it, it really isn't. But they made the contract, and I'm thinking the numbers that I'm coming up with are accurate because I read about it. But the principle is the same, regardless if I'm a little off on the numbers. Here's what happens. They made the deal in the contract, not for the whole 75 million. They made the deal in the contract that they would give them, I think it was 10 million up front, and the remaining of the 75 million over 3 months, and then the 5% ongoing. Well, it doesn't take a genius to understand that I'm giving you 10 million. The other 65 million that I'm gonna give you is actually off of the money I'm gonna make in it. So I never actually had to come out of pocket for anything but 10. I'm gonna take your gold, sell it, and pay you my fee, then keep your gold for a fee of 5%. Whereas if you would have taken time to learn how things work, you could have negotiated to have your people trained on how to mine it, and you pay them a percentage of what you mine as you learn. And then when you gain it and understand it, now you mine your own goal. You control your own revenue. You enrich. You got people sitting around in your capital city, dying from AIDS, dying from other diseases, living in poverty. And this is the deal you cut because you don't understand how things work. Let me answer a question. And it should be obvious. And so I'm trying to get my head before I answer this question so I don't come across as being facetious or sarcastic, but fight for Black, saying that, okay, your parents never taught their children depend on whites for anything. Neither did mine. Then you're saying, are you speaking as a Black man or woman, self-made, all Black men and all women not emotional, reactive? I think that anybody that's thinking with a reasonable frame of mind will understand that there are always exceptions and that there's never an all-encompassing statement. What I'm telling you is I've put in over 30 years of work. I've studied my people, and I can tell you that you have the majority of us living at or below the poverty line. That's a problem. That comes from something. That is not what your parents taught you. Anybody functioning from what it seems your parents taught you, we wouldn't be having this conversation if we were all functioning through that. So obviously there's a significant amount of us that are not functioning from that. Obviously there's a significant amount if we have people like the story I just told that don't understand how things work. I do this for a living. I literally am out there working with people who don't have a clue. How we discuss money in our homes is another problem. There's literally an entire group of our people out there that the only time they have a conversation with their children about money is when they're saying, I don't have it. That's the reality. I can get you all the empirical data you want. So no, I'm not talking about everybody. That's the thing. We have to understand that in this thing, there is not this monolith. Everybody doesn't fall under the same category while we're the same people. So we have to understand that while I may be addressing an issue, hopefully it doesn't fall on you. The vast majority of the people that come on here are not going to be the people who are most likely to be the people I'm talking about when I'm talking about situations like this. But they are the people I'm hoping that can take what I'm sharing with them and see people in a light that they can sit up and be a positive influence in their lives. So that's that. It's not that I sit up and think everybody is emotional or reactive, but far too many of us are. Way too many of us are. We're triggered. All you got to do is watch it. I can tell you the playbook because I've watched it. I've studied it for years. The playbook is to trigger us. And if it wasn't a situation where we're sitting up talking about it, then we wouldn't be able to be triggered. We're constantly triggered. We stay triggered. Every little thing that they throw out there sets us off. And when you're triggered, you can't think. When you're triggered, you can't strategize. That's the thing that I'm talking about, is we've got to get to a point to where we understand. For those whose parents taught them, you're ahead of the game. I would hope that you take that knowledge and you empower others. But we've got to understand, and that's the reason why I created this guide for teaching financial literacy to teens. Because that's not conversations that's being had in the average Black home. Now, in certain Black homes, it is, and it's relevant, and it's obvious when you observe the performance of the children as they become adults. But that's not the norm. The norm is an idea of lack when it comes to financial resources. When you have a mindset of lack, you function a certain way, And that way is not conducive to producing any type of long-term financial security. And it shows, and it's perpetuated generation after generation after generation. You have to find a way to address these levels of ignorance in a way that changes the mindset. Nothing changes if the thinking doesn't change. If the thinking doesn't go away from, we need Democrats to do something for us, we will consistently be voting at a 90% rate for a group of people who have never done anything for us. We will consistently be blaming the other group for everything that goes wrong. When the truth of the matter is, the right wing and the left wing belong to the same bird, and that bird's been shitting on the head of black people for years. But we don't understand it because we're sitting up and we're allowing the media to feed and write the narrative. We don't do the research. We don't sit up and give validity and support to those who do the research. We find a way to marginalize, villainize, and all kind of other isms. Those who are actually trying to put in the work and make something happen. We find something wrong with them. We still don't know how to separate message from messenger. I could go on and on and on about this. Look, here's what I'm trying to say. First and foremost, on the first end of the thing, let's learn how to love one another while holding each other accountable. Some things are personal preference. Other things negatively impact the collective. We need to learn the difference, and we need to act accordingly. Second of all, we need to spend more time developing programs that enrich. Not just financially, enrich us in every area that makes us more valuable, because it's the value of what you possess that allows you to be able to do something that allows you to write your own ticket, to pave your own way, to make a difference. We need to see inside of ourselves and develop ourselves. We need to do that. Man, there's so many people that show up on these threads that challenge me, that say, man, you can't go out there half-stepping, because they're gonna reach back and they're gonna call you on it. That's what we need. And we need to be teachable. We need to be loving towards one another. But the thing is that I think that makes me effective in what I do is I see all of my brothers and sisters as my equal. They may not be living where I'm living. They may not be performing like I'm performing, but they're still my equal. They're my equal in potential. And my goal is to tap into the potential and wake it up. It is to give them a sense of hope, a sense of purpose, a sense of direction, and show them that absolutely nothing is impossible when you set your mind to it. Because that's how we've made it all this way, is by understanding just how exceptional and extraordinary we are and applying it to something. And when we do it like no other. If you start to take away the things that come from us, this world gets real primitive real fast. But we are always told we're the primitive ones. Look, I'm going to get ready to get off here. I got to get to the gym. I am so late at getting to the gym, but there's work I had to do, and I couldn't let this go by. Oh, man, Early Beeman and Fight for Black, y'all on something right now. Y'all guys are on something. You too, Lori Pepper. I really do appreciate you guys for stopping in and sharing your love and doing what you do. Man, there's so much work to do. Like I said, I'm about to get off here. Don't forget to support the work we do at the Odyssey Project. Also, don't forget to support what we're doing with this young family. Oh, man, when I got involved with it, I did not have any idea. I knew it was going to be tough. I didn't have any idea it was going to be this grueling. But we're in it. We're in it for the long haul. I've committed to it for at least a year. So show some love. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look in the description box. Check out the video with the young mother If you can't find a link in the description box, just look down the videos, you'll find it. Show some love as far as that. Show some love for the research and the program development we do. Show some love for Black Men Lead Rite of Passage. Show some love for Restoring Ghetto's Forgotten Daughters. We'll continue to do what we do. I'll see you again real soon. I'm not sure if I'm going to check in on tomorrow. I might just do some family time. But any way it goes, I love all of you guys. Keep your heads up. Keep focused. We still have work to do. On that note, I'm out.